it's Saturday, noon already. I've gotten several acres already cut. It's doing good. So I suggest you go and finish the entire video, watch it, and you'll see how I rebuilt the drive, the hub drive for this 1209. All right, on my 1209 mower, I've always heard a noise here, and I see now what it is. The head of the bolt busted off. All right, what's going on now is everything has to come apart. The gearbox has to come off of the frame where the PTO shaft hooks up, and everything will slide out. The seals are gone, the bearings are bad, and like I said, this had been going on for a little while. I wasn't sure what had happened, and finding the parts, that was a challenge. I chose to go locally at our Napa Auto Parts store, and we got some pretty good parts. I'll show the part numbers here later. Whee! I'll let it down some more. Oh, that's a nap. Okay. All right, work on it. Put a stand on it right here. And a board. See what we got. I'll be back. Stand it where I can move it. Still want to hang on to it. Hell, that bolt's backed off. I didn't do that either. That's gonna have to get cleaned out. Put some blue Loctite in there. The belt pulley hub drive on your lower left hand corner, that has to come off the gearbox, and that's what I'm going to work on next. Alright, there's a rubber disc that goes in there, and when it's put together, it'll be easier to understand when I get done with it. But when the rubber disc is in there, there's a set of bolts that go in right here, and then this flange goes on the rubber disc, and it tightens up against that rubber disc. And then on the opposite side, there's a bolt here that goes clear through here. Actually, don't go through there. It threads down into this housing. It threads into this housing. And this bolt here, let's say this bolt threads down through into this, and then this flat steel giant washer tightens down onto that rubber disc. It's like every other one. So every other one gets bolted onto the disc on this side, and then every other one gets bolted onto the disc to the other side. And that way it's like a safety. You tear it if it gets plugged up or something, maybe. Well, anyways, when I found this, they just bolted a big enough bolt on there where it caught right here all the way around, and it was just using it to drive. So these two here are decent threads, and on the back side of the third one, there's a grease zerk there, and there's very little shoulder in that, and it's stripped of threads. So Tracy's Ingenuity is going to drill this hole out take a grade 8 nut. I mean, you could put helicoil in there, right? But there's very, very little thread in that. And I want to slip this up through here after I drill the hole out. I want to slip that up. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to slip that up in there, that nut, like that. And then I've got this really special welding rod that is for carbon steel to stainless steel, cast iron, and it'll hold. It must be a welding rod that some Boilermaker invented. I don't know, but it's been used a lot. I've used it a lot on equipment for farming because it was cast steel or cast iron, and they're still planting with it, by golly. I'm talking about people that are farming 3,000 and 5,000 acres. They're still planting with some of this stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's going to work, and I'll show you how I do it. So this thread got stripped. And on this side is where there's a grease zerk. So what I've done is I've got a nut, I rounded it off, put a bevel on it, and I got it standing up at the same height as this back of this flange. And so I got it standing as even as I can. Nice splatter in the way. What I'm going to do is, yes, it's carbon steel, and this is, I believe it's I think it's cast iron. When I ground it down, it's really soft. So I've got some, what's called Crown is the name of the welding rod, 220-M. They recommend 40 to 80 amps of DC reverse polarity, constant current welding machine, DC. And I've used this stuff, oh my, 40 years plus on farm machinery that was a cast iron, and I needed to weld something steel to that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to daub it here and daub it there, tack it, daub it there and daub it there, clean it all up, and then try to get a bead all the way around it, and then I'm going to weld it again on the back side, which is very delicate. And that'll be my threaded area. Yes. Could I have put a helicoil in there? No. There was less than 1/4 of an inch of threads. That's why it ripped out. So with this being in there, it's going to be tougher, and it's got to be tougher than a rubber disc, right? So I'm going to tack weld that in there. So I got it probably on 80 right now. Amps. I'll hold it with something just to help hold it. This stuff sounds like you're welding with straight polarity, but it's not. I went ahead and kept going because alright, that's it. I ain't putting no more on it except on the back side. Let it cool down. Now this stuff, I wouldn't be pouring water on it. Let it cool down slowly. Because it is cast iron. I hope it don't crack in between. Now I've taken a burr grinder, air tool burr grinder, and I've ground down around where that nut is going to be welded, and I ground down the nut so it had a bevel on it.
You
That
can weld
way it
stainless
has a good
carbon
bead.
steel with it. It's almost like 309. Okay, I gotta take that nut that caught it in there kind of tight. I gotta get that to work loose. I may have to take a bolt tap and re-tap that bolt because I kind of got close on the welding. I may not even touch that. I may daub it. It welded, I could see slag on the backside, so it welded pretty deep. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get back there. It'll just ruin the threads. So I'll just clean that up, get that out, put a tap in it, clean the threads, and then I have to get ready. I gotta weld a nut on here so I can get this. That's what caused the whole problem. All right, I just welded down on the inside to that bolt. It's hot. I had to hold it with a vice grip. And it comes right out. I just put it real quick, half a bead, not even the whole nut. And it kind of, what it did, it had Loctite and it got hot enough to where it loosened up that Loctite. But it just sheared that head of that bolt right off, so it's still in good shape. So, start cleaning everything else up, and I got a bearing to press on and a seal to put in. I gotta put a seal in here first, and then the bearing goes on here, and then I gotta put a race in the gearbox, and then put this together with the gear set, but I'm waiting on a seal. After I got done welding, this bolt was up in there and I couldn't get it out. I had to grind it down so the weld was gone to get it out. And you can see around here where it's hard to weld cast iron to anything. So I'm gonna put another bolt in there and slowly weld that again. This here, I'm gonna have to put a glove around it and try to keep it warm so it don't cool down too fast. So I'm gonna put a new bolt back up in there and make sure I don't weld up against the weld again. If I do, I'll have to grind it down. All right, thanks to Napa, we've got a new seal. I had to take this tool here. This is what you use to clean out drilled holes, but I used it on this piece here and cleaned it up because it had a lip that was ground down from earlier. Cleaned it out and then took a magnet and cleaned all the shavings out, and then took brake cleaner on a rag and cleaned out the surface, put some oil on the shaft and on the rubber part of the seal, and I think I'm going to have to get a bar, or I don't know if I can get it tapped in there. It's got to go under. It's going to go, but I'm going to have to get a piece of pipe, and it hammers down on that all at once. So I'll start that again and let you see how far it goes down in there. And after I'm done with this, then we're going to start putting the belt drive hub on. All right, got it drove in there. It's up about 1/8 of an inch. And my hub drive, I think I'm going to have 1/4 of an inch or more, which away from this, and that's good. It'll be above that. If not, I want to readjust it some more, but I think it's going to stop right at that point. So I need to clean this out some. There's some rubber down in there. Get the bolts cleaned up, and then we'll put the hub on. This is the disc after it was put together. Well, it's the drive hub. And what happens is there's 3 bolts here that are bolting into this. And then there's a rubber disc in between. And there was nothing there. Well, there was the old disc that was ripped, but somebody had taken bolts, long ones, and ran them the other way, and it would hit the sprocket. And that's how they were using it. I caught it. And so I've made my own rubber disc out of a belt, out of a round baler belt. Maybe it's not the right thing to do, but it's way better than, I took 2 of them and sandwiched it together, and I still used, there is a metal, like giant fender washer under here that's pushing down on this. And then where these 3 bolts go, there's a fender washer that's up against, pulling against this. So it gives it a rocking effect. So that it's got some cushion there, but I'm sure John Deere's reasons are this disc will rip if you hit something, and that way you don't tear anything up. But that's how they did it, and I'm going to do it this way right now, and here in a couple weeks we'll see what happens. And of course, I'm going to use blue Loctite. Well, this may not be Loctite, but it's thread locker, Permatex. I'm going to get it all over these threads real good, and then torque that down. It never came off, and it had blue Loctite on it, so it held it. I'll get that done right now. If you can see down in there, right here, right there. Yeah. That's it. It's like a snap ring. There's another there. You can see right there in a split in it. That is just a spacer. And the other seal is already in there. And I'm pretty sure that it looks like a snap ring. Has a groove in it. And that's where the bearings slide up against it, so there's a separation. So I'm putting in a new race. The other one was chewed up a little bit because the shaft was wobbling a little bit. This is the shaft, and I have another piece that slides over this, and then it goes down in there, and I'll show you that here. A second. Okay, I just hammered that down in there. It matches, piece of pipe, it matches the seal. And hammered in there. You know, I gotta tap it left and right, or all 4 corners till it goes in. Now it's seated up against that O-ring. And this, I had to put a new seal on it, got a new bearing for it, and it goes in like that. I'm real careful. I don't want to damage that seal right now, because I'm going to drive that in there. I'll probably do it right now, but I want to do it with 2 hands and put a new U-joint in it. And what happens is it slides up into this, and that's where it moves in and out. You can change the distance, and it'll slide around a little bit. So I'm gonna put this down in there and get it so it seats like this one right here. This one's still in good shape. The seals are all right. All right, I'm gonna stop here for a moment. Tractor was running. You can see the belt's on. You gotta put the bottom on first. Leave it dangling over here so that it's right in here. It's all the way down as far as it'll go, but you got to get it on that pulley down there first, because it can't jump that balancer. Get it in there, Then you get it started like a lawnmower belt, right? It says lawnmower. And then you want to turn your gears and roll it on. And then once you get it rolled on there in place. Now I put these bolts in first, top, bottom, and side. I put all that, well, actually I put the gears in first. The splines, I mean, to the rollers. Put them in first. Then I put this on, this bolt here, this nut. Then I put that nut down there on that one, down there, down here. Then I put that one on. Then I went to the belt. So now I'm tightening up, getting the belt somewhat secure so it don't fall off. And I'll get everything else kind of snug but not super tight. And then I'm going to work on these gears, putting them back in place and tightening them up. This one here's loose. It was like that when I took it apart. So I'll clean all that out and get some good Loctite in there. And then I'll clean this seal off real good for the pan. It ought to be like brand new. And I'll get it all sealed up and get some oil in it and clean off all this residue of old oil. Got my earmuffs on. Well, most of hay. All right, I finished fixing that gearbox. And so far I've mowed maybe a half an acre. It feels good. So we're gonna go at it. Got 20 acres to mow. I don't know what to leave this open for you for now and you watch it.